Today's short story might be the most. I'm just going to go out there and say probably is the most subliminally impressive short story that I've ever read. So, one of the ways that you can kind of measure a writer and their skill is what they tell you without ever saying it. And there are things on the page in this short story that don't exist in the words. In fact, the entire point of this short story, the entire history of these characters together exists in this short story, but it doesn't happen on the page. Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another short story discussion, which will appear in two playlists here on the channel. Number one being the short story discussion playlist, inching towards 125 videos strong. But number two is the short story by short story read along of Let Me Tell You by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson, one of the most underrated writers that I have ever had the pleasure of reading. So if you want to know the truth, the most underrated writer I've ever read is probably Tom Spanbauer, but that's mainly because he's not acclaimed at all. He's probably bigger among writers than he is readers. And that's kind of a true tell, right? So if you get into these videos that have been creeping up in my feed here on YouTube, I don't watch basketball. I don't like basketball, but probably I have watched enough videos about other basketball players talking about Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant to fall in love with that type of video enough that YouTube feeds it to me, right? So you have people who are in the craft that talk about people who do the craft, basketball, right? So underrated players. Now, Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan happen to be basically the two all-time greats, but it is reaffirming to see that people inside that craft speak the same way about them. Tom Spanbauer is talked about that way by writers who have read him. Shirley Jackson. It strikes me that perhaps the people holding the torch more for Shirley Jackson than anyone else are writers themselves. The things that happen in Shirley Jackson short stories, the reason for writers holding up Shirley Jackson is that when you have dedicated yourself to the craft of writing, you understand how difficult these things are. And that's what we have today. The short story in question is I Cannot Sing the Old Songs by Shirley Jackson. This video will have 3 separate parts: a So What Happened recap of the short story, a literary criticism section where we talk about the literary merits and goings-on in this short story, and finally, a writer's corner. And you see there is on the screen right now just one note, and we will get to that for that writer's corner portion of this video. So, what happened? Our speaker has gone and gotten engaged, and she's breaking the news to her parents. They're not happy. They aren't happy about this. They're really laying into her. Well, kind of. They're both laying into her all right, but Dad's just putting on a show. So they can both get out of hearing Mom go nuclear. Mom doesn't like the guy. We don't know if Dad does or not. No, we don't know if the speaker had broken this conversation, or we don't know how much of this our speaker has gone into with Dad before this, but we know it has happened because Dad is in on the ruse. So here's the thing. The literary criticism portion of this, the number one note there is manipulators. When we open the short story, we don't know that there are two characters doing this. We know that the speaker is biding her time in this argument, is setting up the emotions that she wants, and is doing her best to act out what it is that she thinks she has to do to get out of the worst of whatever is going on. She's not being true to her emotions. She's reading the room and plotting her response. We soon find out that so too is her father. We open the short story itself with a line, something about he's the greatest guy in the world. And the greatest guy in the world, she thought, looking at her father. But shortly after this, Dad's really laying into her. So we're forced to kind of reconcept what did that first line mean? And we think that what's happening at that point, we're led to believe what's happening at that point, is this opening line is about her fiance. She's looking at her father and thinking about her fiance, saying he's the greatest guy in the world. But by the end of the short story, the greatest guy in the world, she thought, Jesus, you poor old man. These characters are both manipulating the mother, but the real question here is, who is the manipulative one? We start the short story knowing that our speaker is a manipulator, is doing the manipulating. We find out later that Dad is in on the ruse and he's manipulating too. Which leads us to the conclusion that the real manipulator is Mom. How do we get there? Well, if our speaker, the daughter, and the dad both know they have to do this together, it's because they've seen the Panzer-like execution of the mother's manipulations in the past. And just like a blitzkrieg, perhaps that manipulation was not covert. That manipulation could have been over the top, real fast, and right in your face. In fact, we have the reason to believe that it is because that's what's going on in this short story. The mother is trying to hammer her daughter. So we have a room, a short story full of manipulators. Notably absent is the fiancé. This is this situation, this scenario, this dynamic so bad that Dad, probably, but definitely our speaker knows, don't bring him into it. Don't bring the fiancé into it. We will have to ease this situation. We will have to warm the skillet before we crack the egg being the fiancé. And you get all of this short story is 2 pages, a front and a back of a page. This short story is 2 pages, and we have this entire dynamic right inside of it. We have the role, the reversal, and ultimately the conclusion that the real bad guy here is Mom. Why do daughter and dad have to double team the mother in order to get this thing accomplished? This thing being, hey, I love this guy, I want to marry him. Let me break the news to my parents that your daughter is getting married. We have all of that in 2 pages. It is insane. It's masterful. It's magic. It's magic. And how much of it is told to us? Nothing. We just have the situation. Not in ideas, but things, the objective correlative. It's just shown to us. We have to get there on our own. I said subliminal at the beginning of the video because of that. It is not told to us. It's just working its way around back here while this part of our brain is processing the story. We're seeing the things take place and we are having to reverse engineer why what we are seeing is taking place. We are left to question everyone because not of what we're told, but because of what we aren't. The number 2 thing here, the title, I cannot sing the old songs. What? Well, what are the old songs? The daughter character has grown up. She's living her own life. She is becoming her own individual. The dynamic that you grow up in is something that it's like a fish in water. You don't know you're in water. You are crafted into this thing, which is the person that you are until you make the active decisions to be the person you want to be. The daughter is deciding that old dynamic, those old songs, the song and dance of appeasing mother. Not doing it anymore, man. Not doing it anymore. I'm not going to break up with my fiance because mommy doesn't like him. Not doing it. If I have to sing a counter song, a counter rebellion, if I have to do this thing which is dishonest, yeah, I'll do it. The real me is the me that is engaged to my fiance. The me that I am here is just the me that I had to be, but I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not going to act like I'm sad when I don't have to be. I'm not going to act like I'm disappointed in myself for finding the person I love when I don't have to. I have jumped out of that fishbowl, baby, and I found the ocean. I'm not going back. I'll pacify when I have to, but I'm not going to be mommy's little girl anymore. Those are the old songs. The old songs that our speaker cannot abide by any longer, can't even put up the face, is unapologetic. So I think, pardon me, you can listen to what I'm saying and look on the page and say, well, no, she's not being true to herself, right? She's not being true to herself. She is singing a song. She's putting on a mask, but she's unapologetic. That's the point. She has figured out who she is, and she is finding a way to break this to her mother. And if that breaks her mother, so be it. But we also have this exchange. The dad is the protector, the final literary criticism moment there. The second page of this short story, we get this exchange. After all, her father was saying again, you know that we don't like this young man. What do you want me to do, she thought. Say okay? The whole thing's off? I won't get married? If it were only someone, her mother began. Well, mother, her father said, I never thought we'd be ashamed of her, did you? Dad, even in this moment, when he's doing his best, finger wag and lambast, even in this moment, Dad is playing the role of protector. How? He's laying into her. He didn't let Mom get started. Don't tell her why you don't like her. Don't tell her that. Don't try to sully her relationship. Don't try to poison that well. You're not going to do it. Not on my watch. Now, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm going to pretend that I'm doing it. But the effect is the same. Right? True manipulators. The ends justify the means. It is the end case that we're really worried about. We don't care about the facade along the way. We'll wear whatever mask we have to. We're still going to manipulate how it is that gets us to our desired end state. I mean, just masterful. This short story would be 20% not as good. I won't say 20% worse, because I can't put those words in my mouth about this short story. This short story is simply masterful. But it would be 20% not as good without that one line. If Dad did not cut her off and just let Mom lay into her fiance, but when he does this, it is a groundswell of knowing what this guy's going through. Because he sees it. He sees it coming. She's about to say all this crap that's going to negatively affect his daughter's relationship. Can't do it. I gotta step up. I gotta say something. And he says something on her side, but here's what that does to someone who is like this mother in this short story. He could not have cut her off and said, dear, don't. Because that rage is still inside of her. She has to get it out. But if he voices something that is twice as acidic as whatever it is that she was going to do, at least to the ear, right? I didn't think we'd ever be disappointed in her, did you? If he's able to get something out that is all that much more dissolving to the character that is supposed to be the daughter here, then she feels okay. Haven't you ever seen someone in an argument make a point that is twice as good as what it was that you were going to say, that you had in your mind? Oh, well, he should say this, and then that guy says something that's 3 times what you were going to say. Oh, yeah, no, that feels good. That's what her mother is feeling in this moment. Oh, yeah, no, honey, you got her. You got her pinned down. You've got her figured out. And you're doing twice the job that I thought I was going to do, so I don't feel the need to add my 2 cents. He is quelching that need from the mother. So the writer's note that I have for this short story is simply this. Where in the hell, Shirley Jackson, do you get the temerity to try to write this goddamn short story? I mean, wow. I've always thought that from one person in the craft to the other, right? Here it's writing. I'm not Shirley Jackson, but I write. The greatest compliment that one artist can give to another, the greatest compliment that one football player can give to another, that one bricklayer can give to another, no matter what the profession is. The best compliment you can give someone is, hey, man, that makes me jealous. I am so jealous of this short story. And this short story's got to be 400 words. Tops. 400 words. We have the entire life's relationship of these 3 characters. We have the knowledge that somewhere in the past, the daughter snuggled up to her father and said, man, I can't do this anymore. And he said, no, babe, I got you. I get it. We will have this second relationship outside of the relationship that we have as a family unit. We have the story that our speaker had gone to dad before this took place. We have the fact that mom is corrosive. That mom, if we want to get real deep, mom probably had this mother. Mom is probably being the mother that she had because there's no way that someone on their own finds these behaviors and says, I want to be that person. No, this is something roiling under the surface. This is something that she did not plan to be. She has happened herself into. This is something that she was formed into. We have the relationship. We have a little bit of the relationship with the fiance. Because on some level, either she has told him or he has intuited or he is outside of the loop. We don't know which of those 3, but it's one of those 3 knows not to be there. Don't be there. This thing has to take place. All of that, while never putting any of it on the page, all of that not on the page, but we have to get that dynamic in order to make anything of this short story. All of that not on the page, but we get the dynamic while being so short, while pulling the fast one on the reader that we have to reconceptualize the entire short story at the beginning, in the middle, and then again, 3/4 of the way through, we know, no, the greatest guy in the world isn't the fiance, it is the dad. Because he is playing along here, putting all of those things into a short story like that, the temerity, the nerve of even thinking you can pull this off. Even thinking, oh yeah, I've got this idea for a short story. I'm going to do it in like 350 words. I'm going to pull 2 fast ones on the reader over the same idea. I'm never going to tell anyone what the short story is about, and they're just going to have to deal with it. I'm so jealous of this. I'm so jealous of this level of writing. That is all I have for this short story discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I do on this channel. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.